Here's a little article that I found browsing around on the Packers universe and discovered this here, which was created by Freddie Boss, and you can go and check out Freddie's work. He does all kinds of different articles on the Packers. He does a pretty good job when it comes to covering. There's other different articles on other different sites, but this one is from Lombardi Avenue, and he decided to rate all 61 of Brian's draft picks ranked from worst to the best. So I want to go over these and then kind of give you my rankings of the worst to the best. And let's see if we agree on the placing of some of the players for the Packers during Brian Gutekunst's tenure as our general manager. Starting off with the worst, he decided to go with Simon Steps. I guess I understand this one because he didn't really do anything for the Packers. Once he got drafted, he really didn't play a game. He abruptly retired, essentially ending his career before it started. So I understand, but I'm going to disagree because I don't think that's Brian's fault in determining that he was just going to abruptly retire. And I don't think that he definitively picked a bust because I don't think I consider Simon Steps a bust. He is like an unknown. Whereas the rest of the guys that are above him, like Kendall Donderson, James Looney, those guys just did not work out whatsoever. They tried and failed, respectively. Kendall, James, Cole, and Dexter all tried. I disagree with Dexter being rated 58th. I thought that Dexter, could probably be a little bit higher, but that's just my opinion. I thought Dexter showed a little bit of something. Sean Clifford at 56, that's pretty puzzling. I gotta say it's a little early to judge the rookies, but I understand coming from his standpoint that I think Sean was picked a little too high, so I understand why he doesn't like it. And Kylan Hill being this low is a little surprising. Kylan was good value in the 7th round when we selected him, and showed a little bit of something as a kick returner and as a backup running back. He's also a pretty good job with catching passes. Anders Carlson being at 54 is puzzling to me too. I think Anders is going to be a very good kicker here. Jonathan Ford, Hunter Bradley. Yeah, I think that those guys are pretty bad. Let's see, Jamon Moore, Grant Dubose, kind of disagree. Cole Van Lanen, Sean Ryan. I think jury's still a little out on Sean, but right now it doesn't look very good for Sean. He is in a make or break second season, but I really don't see his job being in danger because it's just too early to declare Sean a bust or not, but he will have to step it up and figure it out in year 2. Nichols, Valentine, Rashid. Yeah, no surprise Amari's this low. No surprise Sternberger's this low. They were third round picks that didn't work out. Vernon Scott. I think Vernon Scott needs to be lower. He did a lot of good work on special teams, but he offered nothing on defense. Kadar Holman. Let's see, Kamal, Hansen, Garvin, Carl Brooks, Tavian Wicks, Samori Tori Ty Summers. And now we go to the top 30. Kingsley Kiki, J.K. Scott. I'm surprised Josh Jackson isn't lower. For a second round pick, he didn't work out well at all. His skill set did not transition, and he was just, nothing worked for him. Literally nothing at all. Not even safety helped him. Isaiah McDuffie, Josiah DeGuara. EQ. We got Colby Wooden, TJ Slayton, Oren Burks, Jaden Reed. Oren Burks, I'm kind of surprised to see this high, even though he was a starter and did some good work on special teams. I'm not entirely certain if I agree with that one. I'll have to revisit that when I compile my list. Tucker Kraft. Royce is... Royce, to me, is very tough to judge. He was very good to start out in his rookie year in training camp and graded out really well in Pro Football Focus and looked like he had a lot of promise. He started at right guard, and then the competition started to get tougher, and then lost his job as the starting right guard. I see why. Let's see, J.J. Enagbari, Lucas Van Ness, Luke Musgrave. Makes sense so far. Rome's Devontae Josh. Josh is in a bit of a tough spot right now. I think he needs to work on Yeah, he has had some bouts with inconsistency and hasn't graded well on Pro Football Focus this past year. He is going to have to step it up and get a little bit better. I have full faith in him because I think that he has shown some good play. It's just being able to put it all together and being more consistent is where I see it with Josh. Quay, Zach Tom. I think Zach Tom could seem to be a little bit higher. This is a guy that we found in the middle rounds, and he has been a pleasant surprise. He is what I thought Sean Ryan was going to be. But Zach, props to the Packers and Brian for being able to find a diamond in the rough. And Zach Tom, guys, he is so versatile. And I think he could be very equally comfortable as a guard, a center, and a right tackle. Let's see, Eric Stokes, AJ Dillon, J Love. Ironically, this would probably be the Jordan Love pick would be very, very low on a whole lot of people's lists. But thanks to now that he's going to be the starter, I think that this could be Brian Gutekunst's best draft pick if he pans out. If he doesn't, we could see Jordan Love back on the list, down on the lower portions of the list. Not necessarily my list, but a lot of people's lists. Let's see, John Runyon, number 7. John Runyon, I gotta talk to you guys about John. Once I compile my list here. Let's see, MVS, Darnell, Christian. Darnell at 5 is a little bit of a surprise. I thought he was going to be a little bit lower due to the recent struggles, but Darnell Savage, when he started out, looked good. He was a pretty good, competent, average starting free safety for us in the Mike Pettin scheme. But once Joe Barry came along, he kind of dipped down in play. I think it's a scheme fit rather than Darnell the player, so I understand. And then top 3, I can probably agree with, maybe 3 or 2 being flipped, because Elgton Jenkins is something else, guys. Elgton Jenkins is one of the most versatile offensive linemen ever. He probably can't play left tackle, even though he's been able to fill in there in a pinch. I think Elgton is best served as a left guard, but whenever he needs to, he can play right tackle, center, right guard, and probably play it as equally as well. It's amazing how he's been able to adjust right away and become a really good, viable starter. I think Elgton Jenkins is definitely going to be a Pro Bowl guard for the next 5 to 7 years, guys. Brian Gutekunst stole this man. Stole him. Rashawn Gary being a 2. I think this is a low-key steal, too. And I remember when everyone hated this pick because he was a raw player coming out at Michigan. And look at where he is. He's a Pro Bowl-level pass rusher. This list here that I've compiled. And I'm going to do something a little bit different than doing it through picks, or the picks 61 to number 1. Instead, I decided to do this, where I decided to group them into late-round picks, mid-round picks, and early-round picks. The reasoning for that is because I don't really find it to be fair to compare a late-round pick versus a mid-round pick, let alone an early-round pick, because the skill set levels are much different. Their skill sets and how they transition from the college to the pros, very different. So I just wanted to be able to compare the late-round picks and how they stack up against each other, the mid-round picks, and the early-round picks, on who I would believe to be the best picks to the worst picks. Starting with the late-round picks, John Runyon Jr., hands down, has been the best late-round pick by Brian. I said this coming out when John was drafted. He was my favorite pick in that class because I saw a lot of really, really good abilities with him. He was a left tackle at Michigan, and I thought that there was something there. He has the bloodline, John Runyon Sr. He played right tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles for many years. I just thought that he was going to transition well to the NFL. So EQ is number 2, and Samori, and so on and so forth. As for Sean Ryan here, I'm not giving up on him. I do have him a little bit lower for now. The value when we selected him in the 3rd round was good, but something about Sean to me, I can't give up on him. I can't call him a bust. Same thing with Royce, of course. At least he was able to start. Kingsley Keke, he was a good backup for a while and showed some flashes. JJ Enagbari shows some flashes so far in his young career. As a pass rusher, TJ Slayton flashes too. And then for our early round picks, which I will be probably go over briefly about these guys. We already know that Jair Alexander probably is the best pick in the Brian Gutekunst era. His first pick for us as general manager of the Green Bay Packers has been a slam dunk. Jair is arguably one of the best corners in the NFL. I don't have to say much there. Christian Watson, the guy with the most upside because of his explosive playmaking ability, his speed. Jordan Love, I think, could go from 5 to 1, depending on how things are going to go. But I think I'll go with him at 5 safely because we just don't know who he is yet. Kind of like the same thing with Luke Musgrave. High upside, we just don't know who he is yet. But I believe with this young man's skill set, J. Love and Luke are going to be a great duo together. Luke is I don't want to compare him to Travis Kelce, but they're so similar. They're both down-the-seam threat tight ends. They're both so athletic, and they actually have the exact same 40 time. I believe at 4.61. So that goes to show that both Luke and Travis have that serious speed, and that's why I say that there is a good comparison there, due to the speed, due to the size, due to the skill set. I think that the sky is very high for Luke Musgrave. A.J. Dillon, the mayor of Door County, I wasn't too high on his value when we selected him in the second round, but he is a good power back, and I'd have to say that he's probably slightly over Darnell because Darnell's recent struggles, he got benched. But as I mentioned before, that Darnell did have a first couple good years before having some down seasons. That could be scheme, that could be... I don't know what happened with Darnell. Let's hope for a bounce back year to where he can play back to his old self. And then the rest fills out with the promising Quay Walker, the promising Eric Stokes, the promising Devontae Wyatt, and Josh Myers, who, as I said, needs to get better with consistency. And then the worst pick in the early rounds was arguably Josh Jackson. He did not work out, and I'd say he's probably the only real true bust of the early round picks that Brian has made, thankfully, and the rest are all really good players, and lots of them have such high potential. The sky's the limit for a lot of these guys, including Devontae Wyatt, including Quay Walker, including A.J. Dillon, including Eric Stokes, Josh Myers. That's how I see it for the Packers, and there's only been one real true bust that was selected, and Josh Jackson, his value in the second round was very, very good there. I understand why Brian took him in the second round, because he was seen as a first-round draft choice. If you remember, guys, Josh Jackson I saw selected in the first round pretty consistently. It's just that, unfortunately, the skill set didn't transition, he had issues with speed, and that's what ultimately doomed Josh from being able to become a good, productive corner. And that's where I think I will leave it here. I think we're going to see that maybe 5 years from now, Brian was right. And then we take a look at the mid-round picks, we see a whole mixed bag. We got some steals, we got some guys that were okay, they turned out well, they turned out to be good depth. Some just turned out to be bad players, some are still developing, some are big question marks. Some showed some promise, some and then fizzled out later on. Some might have turned out if there was more time to develop them or was given chances. And with these late round picks, of course, there was minimal chances for some to showcase their abilities and were ultimately not a part of the team anymore. And I'll catch you guys later for another video sometime in the future. And for the 2023 Green Bay Packers, go Pack Go.